Some onlookers leave at the 9th hour because they believe this man was killed by the aggression of the waves. That nature's blood was this man's weapon, which is covered with inscriptions of the Great Flood. This man's followers take 10 days to build a barrow that sailors can see along the coastline. This song of Edgebow rules for 50 winters until a man steals a golden cup. This man sleeps without armor or weapons to confront a creature he just... That's 15.
Oh, wow, that was available. I read that.
Oh, good. Bonus, Lorenzo de Credi created a Trompe-l'oeil frame for this funerary monument to Sir John Hopwood nearly a century after its completion. For 10 points each, first name this early Renaissance artist behind the Battle of San Romano.
This is...
Answer?
Let's go with Giotto.
This is Paolo Uccello. The Battle of San Romano is one of the first pieces of Italian art to use a linear form of this technique, which allows an artist to represent depth on a two-dimensional canvas.
Perspective.
This earlier Sienese painter deviated from traditional perspective in his Effects of Good Government, which is among his frescoes for the Siena Town Hall titled The Allegory of Good and Bad Government.
Oh. This is not Giotto. This guy before Giotto.
Answer.
This is Giotto.
This is Ambrogio Lorenzetti. You get one of
We'll
those.
see him in Tuesday.
Toss-up 2. This artist expressed disgust at a portrait by stating, "I don't want anyone to know I posed for it." On a trip to Seville, this one-time student of Jean-Leon Gérôme depicted a toreador resting his muleta on a stick and smoking a cigarette in after the bullfight. This artist's sister Lydia often appears, along with other women, holding a fan or wearing opera glasses in various scenes set at loges and theaters. This artist's study of Japanese prints shows an aqua tints like the letter, as well as a work depicting a woman wearing stripes cleaning an infant's feet in water. She studied art and collaborated with Edgar Degas and various fellow impressionists whom she helped popularize in her home country. For 10 points, name... For 10. And your bonus, the states created by these people, such as the Khanate of Khiva and Kokand, were either annexed by Russia or became protectorates in the late 19th century. For 10 points each, first, identify this Turkic ethnic group, which established the Khanate of Bukhara under the leadership of Muhammad Shaibani. These are the Uzbeks. The Uzbeks took advantage of the power gap left by the fall of this dynasty, which included Shahrukh. This dynasty, which is named for a famous ruler, presided over the heyday of the Chagatai language, and its descendants include Mughal founder Babur. This is the Timurid dynasty. Uzbek cities weren't as prosperous as in ancient times, mainly because this huge overland Central Asian trade route, which links China to the west, slowly lost out to European-dominated ocean trade. For 10. Toss-up 3. Bell gets advantage refers to the reduction of this phenomenon when multiplexing. The root mean square current generated by one type of this phenomenon is equal to the square root of 2 times current times the fundamental charge times the bandwidth. One form of this phenomenon was shown to correspond with the dissipation of electrical energy by resistance by Harry Nyquist. Boxcar averaging can be done to reduce this phenomenon. A form of this phenomenon that occurs due to thermal motion is named for John Johnson. When this phenomenon has a constant power spectral density, it is called white. When taking measurements using electronics, it is important to minimize this phenomenon's ratio with the desired measurement. For 10 points, name this phenomenon, which consists of fluctuations that interfere with signals. Incorrect, no penalty.
White noise.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Bonus, this phenomenon occurs at a higher rate than absorption after a system has reached population inversion. For 10 points each, first, name this process that, unlike spontaneous emission, results in photons that are coherent. Answer?
Absorption.
This is stimulated emission. Stimulated emission is the basis behind these devices that emit monochromatic light in beams.
Lasers.
In order to achieve population inversion, this process of transferring energy to the gain medium must occur. After this, there is typically a quick radiationless transition into the desired excited state. Answer?
Diffraction.
This is pumping.
Was that a leg on the last question or no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished. So, toss-up 4. The colony in this modern-day country was established by friars at Lifau and was raided and occupied by topazes attempting to take over the sandalwood trade. Carlos Bello received the Nobel Peace Prize for work in this country. Sir Peter Cosgrove led an Australian peacekeeping force in this country that helped it obtain independence under Shanana Gusmao. A civil war broke out between this country's UDT and Fretilin parties when it was abandoned after its colonizers' Carnation Revolution. A nearby country's New Order government invaded this island country during the Suharto regime. The Portuguese governed it from the city of Dili. For 10 points, what country was brutally occupied by Indonesia until 1991?
Taiwan.
Incorrect, no penalty.
Malaysia.
Incorrect, it's East Timor. Toss-up 5. A novel by this author contains an anachronistic pun about a blinking, shivering LED. This author included a polymath, learned English dog in a conspiracy-laden novel centrally narrated by Reverend Cherrycoke. The protagonist of a novel by this author fixates on a symbol of a muted post horn and is appointed as the executor of the will of the late Pierce Inverarity. This author of Mason and Dixon wrote about a woman who looks for traces of the Trastero named Oedipa Maas. A novel by this author opens, a screaming comes across the sky, and its title alternatively refers to the structure of the plot or the arc-like trajectory of a V-2 rocket. For 10 points, name this.
Pigeon.
For 10.
Thank God.
Bonus. At a party at the Yapanchen estate, this character randomly launches into a tirade against Catholicism, claiming it is the Antichrist and the source of evils like atheism. For 10 points each, first, name this character whose friend Rogozhin murders a woman he loves, Nastasia Filipovna, and who goes back to Switzerland at the end of the novel. You can give either his real name or the title of the novel he appears in.
The Idiot.
That's right. The Idiot is a novel by this Russian author of the Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment.
That's what I asked you.
Early in The Idiot, a member of the Yapanchen family with this name takes Mishkin under her wing and considers marrying him to one of her 3 daughters. In another Dostoevsky work, the protagonist meets a woman of this name on the street after leaving Smirkov's dinner party.
Sonia.
This is Lizaveta. You get 20. Toss-up 6. A process named for Koster and Kronig is a special case of an effect that releases one of these particles. In a system with few impurities, phonons and these particles can undergo ballistic transport. An effect which releases these non-X-ray particles can be described using 3-letter notation such as LMM or KLL. These particles can probe surfaces in a lead experiment, while the relaxation of one of these particles ejects another one in the Auger effect. The tunneling of one of these particles creates the signal in
Electrons.
That's right, for 10. Bonus. The 12 signs of the Greek zodiac correspond to examples of these things, such as Aries, Gemini, and Sagittarius. For 10 points each, first, name these heavenly bodies. Callisto is transformed first into a bear, and then ultimately into one of these things called Ursa Major.
Constellations.
In Chinese cosmology, one of these animals is a member of the 4 symbols that represents the winter constellations. Vishnu manifests as one of these animals named Kurma during the turning of the ocean. Answer. Dolphin. It's a turtle. Each of the 4 symbols, plus Huangdi himself, corresponds to the Wu Jing, or the 5 Chinese elements. 3 of them are earth, fire, and water. Name the other 2.
Earth, fire, water, wind.
Is it like, yeah, wind and steel or something
Answer.
like that?
Wind and steel.
It's wood and metal. I can take steel for metal, but I can't take wind for wood,
That makes
for
sense.
obvious reasons. You get 10 of those. Toss-up 7. It's not the Mediterranean, but Fernand Braudel highlighted how grain shipments originating from this body of water allowed the Dutch to accumulate Spanish silver. Ships that traveled east toward this body of water were subject to the sound toll. An organization based around this body of water set up contour trading posts, including on river cities like Torun. A ruler chose to build his capital near this sea in order to provide a window on the west. Dominion over this sea shifted east after the Treaty of Nystad. Monopoly rights of the league organized around this sea were affirmed by the 1370.
Black Sea.
That's right, for 10. Bonus. For his skill on the instrument, this guitarist was often said to have made a deal with the devil. For 10 points each. First, name this Mississippi guitarist who wrote such hits as Crossroad Blues, but died in 1938 at the age of 27. Answer.
Smith.
That's Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson was one of the pioneering musicians of this melancholy style of music that originated from black spirituals and work songs. It lends its name to a popular 12-bar chord progression.
Blues.
The influence of blues on early rock and roll is seen in this 1958 song by Chuck Berry. It uses a 12-bar blues in its key of A, and its lyrics describe a country boy from New Orleans who becomes a talented guitarist. Answer?
Johnny B. Good.
20. Toss-up 8. This thinker identified moving backwards, standing still, hesitation, and constructing obstacles as four modes of creating distance with personal problems. This thinker's notions of the guiding fiction and guiding principle that create the idealized masculine ego were influenced by correspondence with Hans Weidinger. This thinker's school of therapy, which built on Nietzsche's notion of will to power, was based on understanding tenets of character development outlined in Vienna lectures that comprise his Understanding Human Nature. The psychologist, who believed that birth order influences personality, argued that neurotic individuals pursue superiority partly because of a constant feeling of inadequacy. For 10 points, name the psychologist who coined the term inferiority complex.
Adler.
For 10. Bonus, the likelihood ratio method uniformly has the highest value for this quantity. For 10 points each, first, name this quantity, the measure of a statistical test's ability to not commit a type 2 error.
Accuracy.
It's power. A type 2 error occurs when one of these statements is not rejected despite being false. These statements are generally a default position that there is no relationship between two measured phenomena and are contrasted with the alternative hypothesis.
Maybe.
Sure, from something.
Answer?
Proof.
That's the null hypothesis. A type 2 error is more likely to be committed if this size is relatively small. This is the number of subjects evaluated in a statistical test and is a number equal to or smaller than the population size.
Data set.
It's the sample size, so nothing on the bonus. Toss-up 9. This character is rendered immobile by the usage of an all-powerful weapon, though its effects dissipate after others foolishly bind him with physical rope. He explains to two brothers that the ruler of his kingdom usurped his brother Sugriva after being left for dead in a cave. This character is the subject of the Sundara Kanda, which describes how he shrinks to a minuscule size to sneak into a city where he presents a ring to a kidnapped woman to prove his allegiance. This foremost of the Vanaras has his burning fur fanned by his father Vayu as he sets fire to the island fortress Lanka. This god brings a healing herb to Lakshmana during a climactic battle in which he helps Rama to defeat Ravana and rescue Sita. For 10 points, name this monkey god who appears in the Ramayana. That's time. This is Hanuman. Toss-up 10. Muhammad's uncle Hamza famously carried two of these objects at Uhud. A passage named for these objects contains the oft-omitted quote, "If any of the idolaters seeks asylum with you, grant him protection until he hears the word of God." That passage is from the 9th surah. Khalid ibn Walid was known as this of God al-Masul. Muhammad gave Ali one of these objects named Zulfikar, a controversial verse named for these objects that commands slay the pagans wherever you find them. The book of Isaiah states that the people shall beat these things into plowshares. Pretend.
Swords.
Yeah, pretend. Bonus, this character falls asleep with a lit cigarette in his mouth while staying at his colleague Ned Welch's house, burning their bed sheets. For 10 points each, first, name this bumbling history professor who gets fired after delivering a drunken lecture, but eventually gets together with Christine Callahan. Answer. This is Jim Dixon. This other fictional professor, an MD, DPhD, Lit, etc., owes a debt to Dr. John Seward for saving his life. He frequently hypnotizes Mina and kills the three sisters residing in a castle near Borgo Pass. Answer.
Dr. Reed.
It's Abraham Van Helsing. Kingsley and Martin Amis both won the annual award named for this English author, who wrote about Philip Carey, a club-footed failed artist, and his relationships with women like Mildred Rogers in Of Human Bondage.
Yeah.
Answer.
Roth.
This is W. Somerset Maugham. No points in the bonus. And at halftime, I have 15 for Auburn, 50 for Grayson County.
Two zeros already, please.
All right. Toss-up 11. The cunning Jonathan Wild amassed a fortune by posing as people of this profession. The law organizing the modern body of this profession replaced the Statute of Winchester. The organizer of the modern incarnation of this profession in Britain stated that they are the public and the public are them as part of 9 principles. An early organization of this profession was led by Henry Fielding and was called the Bow Street Runners. Some of these people dealt with an individual who wrote a document to Mr. Lusk called the From Hell letter after a series of events in the Whitechapel district. Some members of this profession were called pretend. Bonus, this day was preceded by a call by Pope Benedict XV for a truce of God. For 10 points each, first, identify this most notable date on which World War I troops fraternized, exchanging gifts and singing together. Robert Graves wrote a fictional 1962 account of Germans defeating kilt-wearing Scots in soccer on this date. Day and year are required. Answer?
December 25th, 1914.
That's right. The Christmas truce followed the race to the sea, in which these defensive structures were dug towards the Atlantic Ocean. These defensive works were typically protected by barbed wire.
Trenches.
The Germans achieved success near the end of the war by using these troops to break the trench stalemate. Oskar von Hutier pioneered their tactics, which were used to great success during the Ludendorff offensive. Answer?
Trench jumpers.
These are stormtroopers. Get between that. Toss-up 12. In one stage of this process, high levels of inhibin contributes to the selection of a single dominant Grothian structure. A stage in this cycle sees a brief spike of basal body temperature by about 0.5 degrees Celsius. This cycle can be overt as opposed to a reabsorptive covert process in estrous cycles. High levels of prolactin production suppresses GnRH and disrupts this cycle, a lack of which is known as amenorrhea. One stage of this cycle is triggered by an LH surge. Low levels of progesterone in the late luteal phase of this cycle cause an increase in prostaglandins, leading to shedding of the endometrium and an event in this cycle's trademark cramps and bleeding.
The menstrual cycle.
That's 10.
Said progesterone. That's period stuff.
This country's dominant family-owned charitable businesses, which received bailouts after the 1997 financial crisis, have traditionally guaranteed near lifetime employment. For 10 points each, first identify this country, where friction over labor market reforms contributed to a massive upset in April 2016 legislative elections, in which the Sandori Party shockingly came in second place. Answer?
Greece.
South Korea. This Prime Minister of Japan has attempted to implement labor market reforms to discourage lifetime employment and encourage flexibility as part of his namesake economic reform program.
Abe.
In China, the concept of lifetime employment is often referred to as a rice bowl made of this material. The term typically applies to people in government positions.
Rust bowl made of gold, maybe.
Answer.
Gold.
It's iron. You get 10. Toss-up 13. Zakrzewski arrests and interrogates a man with this profession about the plot against Comrade Stalin before himself being taken away by the secret police in Julian Barnes' The Noise of Time. A character with this profession tries to renounce love while working on the apocalypse with figures, and believes he has made a demonic deal when he contracts syphilis from Esmeralda. This profession is held by a narrator who renounces God due to the creative genius of his obnoxious nemesis. In a play about this profession, which is held by Adrian Leverkuhn, Salieri solicits
Musician.
prompt.
Court musician.
I can't take that, make 5. Salieri slits his own throat after claiming that he poisoned the title character. For 10 points, give this profession central to Thomas Mann's Dr. Faustus and Peter Schaffer's Amadeus.
Singer.
I need a composer.
I don't know.
Toss-up 14. In 1973, a conductor from this country gave a 6-part lecture series comparing classical music to concepts in linguistics. Under the guidance of Arthur Fiedler, a composer from this country wrote light music such as the syncopated clock. A production from this country pairs a scene of dancing animals with a musical outtake from Act 3 of La Gioconda, The Dance of the Hours. This country's first direct-to-television opera was Giancarlo Menotti's Amal and the Night Visitors, and its leading radio orchestra was directed for 14 years by Arturo Toscanini. The Young People's Concert Series originated in this country. This country produced a 1940 animated film accompanied by Leopold Stokowski recordings of pieces such as The Sorcerer's Apprentice. For 10 points, name...
United States.
That's right.
I don't know.
For 10. Bonus. Many of this composer's keyboard pieces are found in one of 2 notebooks that he dedicated to his second wife, Anna Magdalena. For 10 points each, first, name this German Baroque composer of the Well-Tempered Clavier, a collection of preludes and fugues spanning every major and minor key.
Bach. This
French composer used the first piece in the Well-Tempered Clavier as the accompaniment to a soprano setting of the Ave Maria. Charles Gounod. This composer's Ave Maria is among a collection of 7 songs taken from Walter Scott's The Lady of the Lake. His other vocal pieces include Gretchen at the Spinning Wheel and Death and the Maiden. This is Franz Schubert, 10 on the bonus. Toss-up 15. It's not a religion, but according to one thinker, an ethical system named for this phenomenon originated when Roman expansion brought about an inversion of values promoted by priestly vindictiveness. The origin of that ethical system named for this phenomenon thus gave birth to resentiment. At the Valladolid debate, Sepulveda said that the Aristotelian concept of the natural variety of this phenomenon applied to natives. Democracy is a manifestation of a moral system likened to this condition according to On the Genealogy of Morals, which associates that morality with Christianity. This condition is the inferior part in a 2-part dialectic explained in Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit. The peculiar institution was an American name of, for 10 points, what condition in which unfree people do the bidding of masters. For 10. Bonus, answer the following about the Roman army for 10 points each. First, the Roman army was reorganized by this 7-time consul who defeated the invasion of the Cimbri at the Battle of Aquae Sextiae. He instituted cohorts to replace the maniple system. Answer.
Scipio Africanus.
This is Gaius Marius. Generally, only people of this Roman class could become legionaries. Children of Roman freedmen automatically had this class, which allied italic peoples fought the social war in order to obtain.
So what's the plebeians?
Patricians.
It's Roman citizens. During sieges, Roman troops often assembled into this formation, forming a closed box with their shields pointed outwards. It takes its Latin name from its similarity to a certain animal.
It's not a phalanx.
What's it called?
Answer.
A legion.
It's a testudo formation. Nothing on the bonus. Okay, toss-up 16. In a case regarding one of these objects, Justice Brennan held that the bedrock of the First Amendment was that the government could not censor expression simply when society finds the idea offensive. A case concerning the compulsory unification of opinion of Jehovah's Witnesses who refused to perform an action involving this object overruled Minersville v. Govitis, Texas v. Johnson, and U.S. v. Eichmann.
Flags?
Prompt.
Burning American flags?
That's fine. 15.
What do you say? How is that? Yeah.
Yeah, I specifically need an American. Your bonus. This pathway consists of a classical pathway, alternative pathway, and lectin pathway. For 10 points each, first name this part of the humoral immune system. Proteins C5b, C6, C7, C8, and C9 of this pathway form a ring-shaped structure in bacterial cell walls called the membrane attack complex. Answer.
Cytoskeleton.
It's the complement system. The membrane attack complex induces cell death through this manner, which typically involves water rushing into the cell and causing it to burst.
Death by osmosis.
It's called lysis. Another part of the humoral immune system are these Y-shaped proteins which bind to antigens.
Histones.
It's antibodies. Nothing on the bonus.
It's okay, I had to wait about
Toss-up 17. Coe's architects used this material to construct a colorful facade for a sports and leisure center in St. Cloud, France. It is also used to create the walls of the Oslo Opera House, as well as the sculpture She Lies, which is located right outside of it. A guest residence made of brick and the so-called sculpture gallery are found nearby a larger building made out of this material, which was used to create the so-called inverted pyramid that people could step.
Glass?
10. Bonus, this author published a study of French symbolism titled Axel's Castle and discussed European socialism into the Finland Station. For 10 points each, first named this prominent 20th century critic, a proponent of the historical interpretation of literature who championed the anthologizing and publication of a series of classics called the Library of America.
Norton.
This is Edmund Wilson. Wilson heavily influenced this author of the story Winter Dreams. This author wrote a novel about the Hollywood rivalry between Monroe Starr and Pat Brady.
Fitzgerald.
And this quintessential Jazz Age novel by Fitzgerald is narrated by Nick Carraway and is partially set in West Egg in New York.
The Great Gatsby.
For 20.
Okay.
Toss-up 18. This novel's protagonist is compared to a clerk whose name Gregory Potemkin signs onto a bunch of forms instead of his own, in a Walter Benjamin essay title for its author. In this novel, the protagonist discovers that a bunch of dusty tomes are actually full of porn. This novel's author fictionalized his ex-fiancée in it as the unhelpful typist Fraulein Bürstner, with whom he shares a kiss. A priest in this novel tells the protagonist the fable before the law. In this novel, the protagonist seeks out Titorelli the painter for advice, and next slide. And at this novel's end, he is stabbed to death like a dog. For 10 points, name this novel in which Joseph K. deals with an absurd justice system after being arrested for an unknown crime, written by Franz Kafka.
Trial.
Yeah, for 10. Bonus, this thinker took his reading of Hegel from his teacher, Alexander Koyev, and referred to Hegel as the most sublime hysteric. For 10 points each, first, name this post-structuralist, whose form of psychoanalysis centers on the relationship between the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real.
Right.
Jacques Lacan. Lacan's analysis of the painting Las Meninas disagreed with the analysis of Las Meninas presented at the opening of this Frenchman's The Order of Things. This thinker also wrote Madness and Civilization. This is Michel Foucault. Foucault employed his own psychoanalysis in this book, which develops the repressive hypothesis that modern society and capitalism attempted to repress the natural libidinal instinct.
No answer.
This is the history of sexuality, so no points on the bonus. Toss-up 19. The earliest circulids are known to have originated during this geologic period, which begins with the unusually short Induan Age. The base of this period's Anisian age is marked by the appearance of the first conodonts. A major global climate change event that allowed for the radiation of corals occurred during this period and is known as the Carnian fluvial event. This period also includes a cold gap that was created by the Great Dying that preceded this period's start. The Permian period preceded this period, which triggered for 10. Bonus, these phenomena are the sole cause of recessions according to real business cycle theory. For 10 points each, first, give the term for these phenomena, which are fluctuations that cause abrupt changes to aggregate supply and demand functions or production functions. They're described as exogenous when they change a model's variables from the outside, meaning the model cannot predict them.
No answer.
These are shocks. A negative shock to the aggregate supply function, such as a decision by OPEC to restrict the amount of oil they choose to export, will have this effect on aggregate prices. A description is acceptable.
Grayson.
Yeah. Increases in the quality of this factor are a common example of a positive shock to aggregate supply. The Solau model predicts that only increases in the quality of this factor allow for sustained long-run growth.
Supply.
It's technology. So you get 10.
Can we have a score check before this is over, please?
I have 185 for Auburn, 125 for Grayson County. And this is toss-up 20. This author's best-known collaborator wrote a novel in which Ludovic lives as a hermit on the frontier after pursuing a forbidden mixed-race romance with the title woman, Marie. This man wrote of a sailor's remark that ships should be built to last for a short time because of technological advance, which reflects the belief that humans can be perfected indefinitely. This man wrote that state control of everyday affairs eventually results in what has been termed soft despotism. In his best-known book, this man wrote that the title Institutions' instability is worsened by the omnipotence of the majority. This man joined Gustave de Beaumont on an 1831 to 1832 trip to study a foreign prison system. For 10 points, name this French.
Talkable?
Yeah, 10. Bonus, this man is the alphabetically prior namesake of the 2009 Act that extended an earlier legislation targeting hate crimes. For 10 points each, first, name this African-American man who was abducted by three white supremacists and dragged to death in Jasper, Texas in 1998.
Windsor.
This is James Byrd. The other namesake of the 2009 Act was this gay University of Wyoming student whose 1998 killing is the basis of the play The Laramie Project.
Windsor.
This is Matthew Shepard. The 2009 Hate Crimes Act extended the earlier laws laid down by the Civil Rights Act of this year, which Lyndon Johnson passed amid the riots in the wake of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in this year. 1968, so no points in the bonus. And I have a final of 195 to 125.
So how many zeros